The chamber of the Galactic Concorde shimmered under the refracted glow of 1,000 star crystals, each representing a member species. Hovering in perfect geometrical symmetry, the council gathered, 27 empires strong. And every eye stalk, lens, or sensory receptor was locked on one figure. High Archon Viral Zaw of the Varnic. 8 legs coiled beneath him in meditative stillness, but his voice, distorted and metallic, cut through the silence with razor precision. Humanity is a statistical aberration, he said. Violent. Unpredictable. Non-compliant with Concorde codes. Their expansionist leanings endanger not only our structure, but our very order. Behind him, holographic footage flickered to life, grainy images of Terran dreadnoughts patrolling asteroid belts, AI-piloted drones flanking unaligned systems, Terran Marines neutralizing pirate colonies with surgical efficiency. They say it's self-defense, Viral hissed. But when every act is cloaked in defense, conquest becomes habit. A rustle of affirmation swept the chamber. The MYRK clicked mandibles. The Dravo pulsed a wave of chemical agreement. The Vrol emitted harmonious vibrations, alien applause. Viral continued. We have tolerated their autonomy long enough. If left unchecked, they will destabilize our peace. We must act. A vote then. No need for further debate. The ancient stones of the chamber glowed blue as the tally surged across them, unanimous. 27-0. Earth would be pacified. Thousands of light years away, the news reached Earth's orbit in less than a second. Inside a command bunker buried 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Reiko Tanaka sat before a silent conference table. Behind her, 3 large tactical screens glowed with incoming telemetry. Above, a red arc tracked the Concorde invasion fleet, 1,244 ships, crossing neutral zone 7 at subwarp. The room was full of whispers. Not panic, but a cold, creeping dread. The kind that settles when hope thins. They've declared war, said Director Helm of Planetary Defense. 3 hours. That's what Concorde analysts estimate. They're calling it a precision strike. A purge, corrected Colonel Hayes, knuckles clenched against the table's edge. They expect us to roll over. Reiko remained still. Her black uniform was unadorned. No medals, no rank insignia, just the Terran Federation emblem on the shoulder. She didn't need the rest. Everyone knew who she was. She finally spoke. How much longer until Azrael is ready? A moment of silence. Then Dr. Lena Anwar, head of Quantum Division, adjusted her glasses. 79% charged. Full initialization in 43 minutes. But we haven't tested it on that scale. Reiko's gaze didn't shift. We won't get a second chance. Anwar hesitated. It could collapse space-time in a 5 AU radius. Or nothing happens. We still don't fully understand what the recursive matrix will do once it engages. Reiko stood and stepped toward the central screen. Her reflection shimmered, short, lean, eyes dark with calculation. We've spent 30 years preparing this moment. Let the Concorde believe they've caught us flat-footed. Let them think their math holds. Back in the council chamber, Viral watched as his fleet commander beamed in. Admiral Rix Tal, of the Tarsan Armada. We've entered Terran space, Rix reported. Outer satellites are primitive. Their orbital guns are barely active. They haven't scrambled their inner fleet. Expected, Viral replied. Their doctrine relies on desperation, not doctrine. Continue. Targets locked. Earth's major cities. Military infrastructure. Hydrosphere manipulators. Shall I begin the first wave? Viral allowed himself a rare display of emotion, amusement. They will resist, he said. Briefly. Humans are very loud before they die. On Earth, Reiko addressed the world in a live broadcast. No fanfare. No preamble. People of Earth, she said. The Galactic Concorde has voted to end us. They believe we are too volatile to coexist. They have sent a fleet, 1,244 warships. Arrival in under 2 hours. She let the silence settle. But they have made a mistake. A pause. Just long enough to let hope edge into the despair. They believe war is about numbers. Firepower. Massachusetts. But war is adaptation. War is timing. And we are done being underestimated. Her eyes narrowed. We do not ask for mercy. We do not seek approval. We only offer one thing, warning. She signed off. Inside Azrael's bunker, power surged. The machine, a complex lattice of crystal memory cores, rotating quantum frames, and dark energy siphons, began humming. The room vibrated as if reality itself shivered. Stabilizing recursion nodes, Dr. Anwar called out. Entanglement nets are sinking. A technician looked up. Ma'am, if this fails. Reiko stepped in. It won't. The technician swallowed and nodded. Outside, in orbit, the first Terran fleet pulled back, deliberately. As planned? A decoy retreat. Admiral Rixtal, watching from the Concorde flagship, chuckled. They're running. Commence bombardment, he ordered. Plasma batteries charged. Missiles locked. Particle lances hummed. Then, everything stopped. The stars shifted. In that moment, somewhere beneath the surface of time, the universe blinked. Azrael was online. The first bombardment struck Earth's outer orbital ring with a blinding cascade of plasma fire, scattering fragments of metal and shattered satellites into a drifting halo. Emergency sirens echoed across the Terran defense network, but Admiral Reiko Tanaka didn't flinch. She stood behind the panoramic tactical display, watching the Concorde's fleet compress into a predatory formation. Colonel Hayes leaned forward, jaw tight. They're targeting our relay grids. If we lose them, long-range coordination collapses. They're meant to collapse, Reiko replied. Let them think their hits matter. Across the room, operators exchanged uneasy glances. Hayes lowered his voice. Admiral, the fleet is falling back on purpose. Civilians think we're already losing. We are losing, Reiko said plainly. From their perspective. That's the entire point. Dr. Lena Anwar entered the room, hair disheveled from the sprint across the bunker. Azrael is at 92%. We're stabilizing the harmonic anchors now. But the dimensional lattice is building more pressure than expected. Reiko turned. Meaning? It's straining the containment rings. Too much longer, and it may destabilize. We either activate before full charge or risk collapse. Hold it together, Reiko said. We need peak charge. Anwar exhaled sharply but nodded. Understood. Above them, the second wave of plasma fire rained down. A Terran cruiser split open like a bursting seed, expelling burning debris. The forward defense grid flickered, then died completely. Alien laughter echoed through the Concorde command channels. Admiral Rixtal, watching from his throne-like command seat aboard the dreadnought Hellion Spear, tilted his head as the Terran retreat expanded. Cowards! Not even a worthy spectacle! His mandibles twitched with mocking amusement. Their fear is almost disappointing. His first officer responded. Your projections predicted more resistance. Rix hissed. Their species thrives on overstated pride. Strip that away, and you see what they've always been, primitive strategists with crude machines. He raised one arm. Prepare the third volley. Back inside the Earth bunker, Hayes slammed a fist against the table as another orbital feed went red. Our forces can't keep pretending to fall back without suffering real casualties. They're dying out there. Reiko didn't raise her voice. I know. Then why? Because every second they buy is a second Azrael gains. We knew this was coming. We made peace with those losses long before today. Hayes lowered his head, breathing hard. I just hope this is worth it, Admiral. It will be, she said. Or none of us will be alive to regret it. In Azrael's chamber beneath Iceland's basalt crust, the machine pulsed with a slow rhythmic low, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. The air shimmered faintly, reality bending in microscopic ripples. The containment rings, massive steel arcs surrounding the device, vibrated under intensifying pressure. Technician Marlowe wiped sweat from his forehead. Readings rising fast. If it pushes any harder, the rings might shear. Reinforce the magnetic cradle, Dr. Anwar ordered. Shift the energy into the secondary layers. That'll overload the phase converters, Marlowe warned. Do it anyway. The ground quaked as energy surged. Azrael's crystalline lattice spun faster, threads of violet light weaving into geometric fractals. It no longer resembled a weapon. It resembled something ancient, something alive. Anwar approached the transparent barrier. We built this thinking we understood it, she whispered. But this is beyond prediction. Reiko's voice came through the calm. Status 96%, Anwar answered. But the distortion field is expanding. If it spreads too far, it'll tear open pockets of unstable time. We only need one pocket, Reiko replied. The one they occupy. In orbit, the Terran fleet executed the next stage of the plan. Ships retreated into the lower mesosphere, using Earth's magnetic field as cover. The Concorde mistook it for a desperate final stand. Rixtau smirked. Their fear is exquisite. Begin planetfall maneuvers. Dreadnoughts descended, weapons primed for atmospheric breach. Concorde tactical officers spoke with mechanical confidence, reading countdowns, targeting coordinates, and energy signatures. Strategist Viral will be pleased, one remarked. Humanity will fold before his deadline, another added. Rix chuckled. We'll have this resolved long before then. Meanwhile, global communications flickered with panic. Cities went dark as orbital relays died. People rushed into shelters. Military units braced for direct assault. Rumors of surrender spread like wildfire. In the bunker, Hayes listened to the frightened chatter echoing across emergency channels. They're terrified, he said quietly. They think we've already lost. Let them, Reiko said. This is the illusion we needed. Hayes shook his head. But they'll blame us. They can blame us after they survive. Reiko stepped toward the digital map. The Concorde fleet now encircled Earth like a Titan noose. Each dreadnought moved with precise coordination, tightening formation, assuming they already controlled the outcome. They think we're cornered, she said. Good. Let's finish setting the trap. Azrael hit 99%. The bunker shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Anwar yelled into the calm. The dimensional cage is cracking. We need to deploy now. Reiko's voice remained composed. Initiate pre-activation sequence. Pre-activation? Admiral, that means... Yes. Once the Concorde enters full bombardment formation, they'll be inside the convergence radius. Anwar ran a trembling hand through her hair. You're gambling with planetary-scale physics. No, Reiko said. I'm gambling on humanity's survival. In orbit, Rixtau received new scans. Terran retreat complete, his officer reported. We have full dominance of the upper atmosphere. Excellent. Prepare annihilation strike. As the dreadnoughts aligned for synchronized fire, Earth's remaining defense ships drifted in silence. No counterattack. No resistance. Only stillness. Rix allowed himself a moment of victory. This is where their chapter ends. In the bunker, Reiko lowered her voice. All units, maintain full retreat posture. Do not fire. Hold. She placed a hand on the console. Azrael team, she said. Stand by for final sequence. Inside the chamber, Azrael's fractal core brightened until it resembled a tiny star. The rings around it twisted space like a lens bending light. Operators shielded their eyes. Anwar shouted. Phase lock achieved. Marlowe called out. Containment at critical. Time distortion expanding. The air folded. Sound bent. Light warped. The walls trembled as though resisting an unseen pressure. The Concorde fleet aligned. Earth went silent. Reiko whispered. Now. Azrael crossed 100%. The machine erupted with blinding white light. And reality began to shift. The moment Azrael reached full charge, the universe seemed to inhale. A pressureless stillness rippled across the planet, silent, colorless, almost serene. Then the sky fractured. A thin white arc spread outward from the polar regions, racing into orbit. It moved too fast for sensors to classify, too precise for natural phenomena. Within seconds, it engulfed the entire battlefield. Inside Earth's command bunker, every console flickered. Operators froze, watching their screens dissolve into static before reconstructing into unfamiliar patterns. Colonel Hayes turned sharply. "What's happening?" Reiko didn't blink. "Azrael's engagement field. Don't touch anything. Let it stabilize." A technician whispered. "Ma'am, the alien fleet just disappeared from thermal scans." "They haven't disappeared," Reiko said. "They're caught." On the Concord flagship Helion Spear, Admiral Rixtal felt the world twist. One moment his targeting systems were locked on Earth's surface, the next his bridge stretched like a distorted reflection. His body elongated for a fraction of a second, then snapped back into shape. What was that?" his first officer stammered. Rick struggled to stand. His vision doubled, two copies of the same room layered atop each other, sliding apart. Time felt inconsistent, as if the seconds no longer matched his heartbeat. "Report!" he barked. No one answered. The bridge crew appeared frozen mid-motion, mouths half open, limbs suspended as though trapped in a paused recording. Rick staggered to a console and slammed a claw against it. Static. Then a voice. Except, it was his own. Repeated back at him from moments earlier. "Prepare annihilation strike! Prepare annihilation strike!" The words looped, overlapping. His own commands echoed from multiple timelines, merging into a maddening chorus. Rix felt his chest tighten. "This isn't possible." Down in Azrael's chamber, Dr. Lena Anwar shielded her eyes as the machine's course spun violently. Violet beams twisted through the air like serpents, leaving trails of refracted time in their wake. The containment rings bent inward, glowing with stress. Technician Marlowe strained to read the fluctuating data. "We're seeing multiple temporal stacks forming. 32 distinct event layers overlapping." Anwar's voice shook. "Good. That means the field caught them properly." "Properly?" Marlowe coughed, gripping a railing. "We're fracturing causality." "That's the mechanism," she replied. "We aren't destroying them. We're unraveling their ability to continue existing in the current moment." The chamber shuddered as a pulse shot upward. "That should be reaching orbit now." In the bunker, a visual slowly reformed on the main screen. Hayes stared at it in disbelief. The alien fleet looked frozen, yet every ship flickered, phasing between different positions. Some seemed intact in one frame, then heavily damaged in the next, as though bouncing between futures and pasts. A dreadnought drifted 1 kilometer left, then snapped back, then vanished for a breath before reappearing twisted at an angle. "They can't move," Hayes whispered. "They're stuck." "No," Reiko corrected. "They're experiencing time out of sequence." An operator pointed at the screen. "Admiral, look!" The largest dreadnought, Imperial Wave, suddenly imploded into itself, shrinking, folding, collapsing into a point of brilliant light before evaporating without debris. Hayes stumbled back. "What did we just do?" Reiko answered calmly. "Azrael isolates their consciousness from linear time. Their minds and their ships no longer agree on when they exist. They'll collapse under the contradiction." "And our fleet?" Hayes asked. "Outside the field radius," Reiko said. "They're safe." On Helion Spear, Admiral Rixtal felt the world tearing. He reached toward his lieutenant's frozen figure, and his hand passed through him, as if the man were a mirage. When Rix pulled back, his claw dragged streaks of afterimages, each slightly out of sync. A deep vibration pulsed through the ship. Then a flicker. Suddenly Rix found himself standing at the entrance of the bridge, not at the console. He hadn't moved. But time had. "What is this? What have they done?" he whispered. The ship lights dimmed. Then brightened. Then repeated the same dimming pattern twice. A voice boomed over internal comms. Admiral Rixtal, it said. It was Reiko's voice. Calm. Controlled. Terrifying. You initiated a war under the assumption we lacked the means to defend ourselves. Rix's mandibles tightened. Show yourself, human! This is a projection, Reiko's voice replied. You are hearing me because your mind is no longer tethered to the present. Rix trembled as his own reflection fractured across his displays, each version staring with different expressions: fear, rage, confusion. You never understood us, Reiko said. You looked at our weapons, not our intent. You misread caution as weakness. The bridge shook violently. Rix shouted, Release us from this. You are not trapped, Reiko said softly. You are concluding. The dreadnought split into 7 overlapping copies, shredding across multiple seconds. Rix saw himself die, once crushed by debris, once vaporized by fire, once simply fading. The visions layered until he couldn't distinguish which fate was real. For him, all of them were. On Earth, the field stabilized. One ship after another collapsed, disintegrated, or quietly vanished as Azrael completed its cycle. 6 minutes passed. Just 6. The largest invasion force in the galaxy ceased to exist. No Terran weapon had fired. No fleet had engaged. Humanity had remained still while physics carried out the sentence. As the last Concorde ship dissolved into shimmering dust, the battlefield went dark. Hayes sank into a chair. It's over. All of them? Every vessel within the convergence radius. An operator confirmed. Silence lingered. A heavy, almost sacred quiet. Then Reiko spoke. Patch me into the galactic channels. A moment later, her voice broadcast across every system the Concorde controlled. This is Admiral Reiko Tanaka of the United Terran Federation. The fleet you sent will not return. The war you predicted would end in hours concluded in minutes. She paused, not for effect, but for clarity. We did not strike first. We will not strike again unless forced. But understand this, humanity will not be erased. Her final words echoed across the stars. Let this be enough. She cut the transmission. Behind her, the tactical screens finally returned to stillness. Hayes exhaled. What now? Reiko answered without hesitation. They'll respond. And when they do, the galaxy won't be the same. She turned away from the screens as Azrael's glow dimmed far beneath the surface. Prepare for their answer. The Galactic Concorde chamber, once echoing with proclamations of power, stood quiet beneath the light of fractured star crystals. Their glow was dimmer now, no longer brilliant, as if mourning the arrogance that had once filled the room. Empty seats lined the circular floor. Some representatives had resigned. Others had vanished with their fleets. At the center stood Admiral Reiko Tanaka. She wasn't dressed for ceremony. No cape. No medals. Just the same black uniform, boots scuffed, eyes calm. A subtle scar on her left brow caught the light, barely visible but unmistakably human. The silence broke. Archon Viral Zal, now a prisoner brought forward for testimony, was escorted under heavy guard. Gone was the grand strategist who'd commanded billions. His carapace was dull. Movement slower. The 8-legged posture slumped in shame, not age. Reiko met his gaze without flinching. A Concorde official spoke from the dais. Admiral, the Assembly recognizes your presence. Earth has requested reclassification from probationary to permanent member, with senior status. Do you have final words before the vote? Reiko glanced around the hollowed chamber. No requests. Only facts. She stepped forward, voice steady. You judged humanity by our wars. By our chaos. You saw fire and called it destruction. She let the words settle. But fire also creates. You never saw that side. You dismissed us as impulsive, emotional, unstable. And you were right about one thing, we do feel more deeply than most. Loss. Love. Fear. Anger. Hope. She paused. But that is not a weakness. That is why we survived. Outside the chamber, protests churned across Concord worlds. Some denounced Earth's rise. Others demanded alignment. Streams of transmissions, diplomatic, desperate, curious, flowed toward Terran channels. Former Concord allies fractured. Border systems requested Terran protection. In orbit above Earth, Concord surveillance drones recorded the wreckage zone. There was none. Just space, silent and still. No debris. No trace of the fleet that once blotted out the stars. Just quiet. And fear. Later that evening, Reiko entered a small chamber deep within Concord headquarters. It was cold, dimly lit, and lined with containment fields. Inside a translucent cell, Viral waited. He stood slowly as she entered. No guards? He asked. You're not dangerous anymore, she replied. Viral tilted his head. You didn't kill me. Should I have? No, he admitted. That would have proven nothing. Reiko leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You assumed we'd fight the same war you were trained for. What of attrition, numbers, shows of strength? Viral exhaled, something like a sigh. I never believed you would develop a weapon like Azrael. Because you never believed we could think beyond firepower. He nodded. We monitored your shipyards. Your military AI. We saw a species that burned fast and bright. We didn't realize your mind moved in the quiet places, beneath the surface. Reiko's gaze didn't waver. You studied our tools. But not our character. Viral looked down at his withered claws. So what now? You dominate the galaxy? She gave a small, tired smile. That's not what we want. Then why fight? Because you didn't give us a choice. In Earth's newly established diplomatic zone, formerly Concord Sector 9, representatives from 14 alien species convened for a Terran summit. No ornamental speeches. No banners. Reiko entered, nodded once, and sat. This isn't a throne, she said, tapping the metal edge of the table. It's a seat. Equal to yours. One ambassador, a crystalline being named Irix Talos, blinked with a ripple of colored light. You crushed the greatest fleet ever assembled in less than one rotation. You could have taken everything. Reiko responded simply. We don't want everything. We want balance. Another delegate, from the aquatic wren, asked. And if another Concord rises against you? Reiko's voice was like a steel thread. Then we won't hold back next time. The message was clear. Azrael had been restrained. There would be no second demonstration. Weeks passed. Galactic systems once aligned with the Concord restructured under the Earth-led Accord. Former Concord officials were offered conditional amnesty. Most refused and fled. Some tried retaliation. None succeeded. The galaxy shifted. And Earth, for the first time, wasn't just a member. It was the center. One night, alone aboard an orbital station above Earth, Reiko stood before the viewport, watching the stars shift beyond the glass. Dr. Lena Anwar joined her, sipping a cup of tea. You haven't slept, Anwar said. Neither have you, Reiko replied. Anwar offered a faint grin. Azrael's signature has faded. The dimensional scars are sealing. The physics held. Reiko nodded. It did its job. There was a pause. Anwar lowered her voice. We built something we didn't fully understand. And we used it. We used it once, Reiko said. And never again. But can we promise that? Reiko didn't answer immediately. Then, we don't lead because we're the strongest. We lead because we chose not to dominate when we could. Anwar looked out at the distant glow of a forming Terran trade station. And if that changes? Reiko finished quietly. Then someone else will have to stop us. In the former Concord chamber, a new star crystal was lit, its light soft, warm, unmistakably human. It joined the others. Not above. Not below. Equal. The assembly voted. Earth's position was ratified. Permanent. Senior. Uncontested. Viral watched the broadcast from his cell. He didn't flinch. He didn't speak. He simply lowered his eyes and whispered, "So begins the age of humanity." And across the stars, the galaxy remembered one simple truth. The Concorde gave Earth 3 hours. Humanity needed only 6 minutes. And changed everything.